So a little background on myself, just to get started. I have 9+ years experience working in the digital landscape. My career actually started as a content strategist at an SEO agency. It was there that I was responsible for developing and scaling the social media department of that organization. And following that, I met my co-founder, Taylor Rowetter, who's standing right in the back over there. We launched Wimzē, and we are a social media agency. We specialize in wellness and mission-based brands primarily. And together, we have helped to build some super awesome communities, both online and offline. We've facilitated some really great conversations in the space, and we've mobilized change. And all that to say, we've also helped our brands connect with their audience more deeply and more authentically in the digital space. In the nature of social media and two-way conversations, I'd love to just take a minute for you guys to turn to the person on your left and your right and behind, introduce yourself, what your business is, and why you're here tonight. That was great. I'm actually so glad you guys had so much to talk about. And you'll have the opportunity to talk more. Thank you for being so open and introducing yourself to each other. When we do some workshopping, you guys can jump in and you'll work in groups a little bit and explore some social media strategy together. Let's take a quick look at the agenda. We're going to cover the value of social media for your business, how to build a robust social media brand guidance strategy, platform hacks, and some tools and trends for 2020 that you can expect. Social media is really hard these days. Who has a little bit of social media fatigue with how much is coming out in the space? Yeah, it wasn't always this hard. It's gotten harder. More platforms are coming out. More features are coming out. There's more pressure to advertise. What I want to focus on is actually the framework. We can talk about tactics. We can talk about trends. I'm sure most of you are actually here for that. But that's not actually going to help you for more than 6 months, because we know in 6 months, everything's going to flip on its head again. So, and just it's a changing world. Like Zuckerberg's going to come in and swoop in, change everything, and you're going to have to start all over again. So my hope is that if we can actually address the foundation and the framework, tactics can just be a result of that kind of work. So, quick story. About a little over a year ago, we had a wellness publication come to us. They had a business goal of achieving 50,000 email leads by the end of the year. So naturally, they thought, let's do a social media giveaway. Has anyone here done a social media giveaway for their business? Yeah, popular tactic, effective tactic. In their case, they decided to do an Amazon gift card. I like Amazon. I order my groceries on Amazon. It's a good ploy. So they launched. It was successful. They got a ton of leads. They were super excited. They said, why don't we send out an email blast to this new loyal customer base? They sent it out, and unfortunately, about 2 days later, they saw a huge influx in unsubscribe rate. Can anyone take a guess as to why that might have happened? Just throw out answers.
You said loyal. They're not loyal.
They're not loyal. Wow, nailed it. Anyone else? They just wanted free shit. Who doesn't want free shit? Anything else?
Wrong target.
Wrong target, yeah. All of these are correct. And speaking to purpose, there just was absolutely no relevance between the giveaway that they chose and the purpose of their brand. So with so much saturation in the market, we're not going to, they didn't leave anything for them to hang on to. They had no reason to stay loyal to them. 63% of consumers, especially the younger contingency, expect brands to look beyond financial statements and bring more meaning to the table. This is the future of digital marketing. This is the future of marketing. Younger contingencies are starting to use branding as an extension of their identity. And that's important to point out because it's going to be more difficult and more crucial that you brands find the purpose behind what you're selling and figure out how you're going to bring value to their lives and help them self-actualize. What we're talking about is brand purpose. We'll talk about this. This is going to be something that's going to bleed into everything we do tonight. What the world needs, what you're passionate about, what you're good at, that's your brand purpose. And we'll explore that more. And I don't want to give you the impression that business goals are not also important. We're all here. We all need to make a buck. So I just want to say, however, that specifically for social media, that's not the best way for you to frame your brand on social because it's such a lifestyle platform. So, thought starter. I would like you guys to take 60 seconds and jot down the role that social media plays in your personal life, not as a brand or advertiser, but as a human being. Can I get a couple people to throw out some of the primary reasons that they use social media in exchange for a free shirt? What do we have over here? Pink shirt.
Connecting with friends and family. That's what Barbara stated.
Connecting. Can we pass this back? How about you? Did you raise your hand? No? Oh, sorry. Yeah?
Crowdsourcing recommendations.
Okay. Pass that back. Okay, connecting to emerging markets. What are your primary reasons? News?
Bragging about how good our life is.
Competition. Big one. You guys can exchange these.
Other people, tracking what's going on in other people's life.
Say that one again.
Track what's going on in other people's
Connecting. Absolutely. Awesome. Finding cool events. Sorry, I have no more t-shirts up here, but go to the back. Yes, all of those. One thing, no one really said anything about buying stuff. Not to say that that's not an after effect, and it's certainly a platform that is now built for shopping, but it is not the primary reason that we use social media. So what we're talking about is user intent. We have to, as brands, assimilate to what the platform was actually built for, which was lifestyle. So I just wanted to put those two things in your head, purpose and the role of social media and user intent, and we'll bring those through the rest of the presentation. So let's take a look at a brand who's done a great job at helping their social media audience enjoy, advocate, bond, and engage with their brands. Less concerned with the purchase. The purchase comes with that groundwork.
I'm a forensic artist. Worked for the San Jose Police Department from 1995 to 2011.
I showed up to a place I'd never been, and there was a guy with a drafting board.
We couldn't see them, they couldn't see us.
Tell me about your hair.
I didn't know what he was doing, but then I could tell after several questions that he was drawing me.
Tell me about your chin.
It kind of protrudes a little bit, especially when I smile.
Your jaw.
My mom told me I had a big jaw.
What would be your most prominent feature?
Kind of have a fat, rounder face.
The older I've gotten, the more freckles I've gotten.
I would say I have a pretty big forehead.
Once I get a sketch, I say thank you very much, and then they leave. I don't see them.
All I had been told before the sketch was to get friendly with this other woman, Chloe.
Today I'm gonna ask you some questions about a person you met earlier, and I'm gonna ask you some general questions about their face.
She was thin, so you could see her cheekbones. And her chin, it was a nice, thin chin.
She had nice eyes. They lit up when she spoke.
Cute nose.
She had blue eyes, very nice blue eyes.
So here we are. This is the sketch that you helped me create, and that's a sketch that somebody described of you.
So yeah, that's...
She looks closed off and fatter, sadder too. The second one looks more open, friendly, and happy.
I should be more grateful of my natural beauty. It impacts the choices and the friends that we make, the jobs we apply for, how we treat our children. It impacts everything. It couldn't be more critical to your happiness.
Do you think you're more beautiful than you say?
Yeah. Yeah.
We spend a lot of time as women analyzing and trying to fix the things that aren't quite right. And we should spend more time appreciating the things that we do like.
That was Dove's Real Beauty campaign. And these were the results. 68.7 million views, sales, 2.4 billion to 4 billion since the launch of this campaign, and the Titanium Grand Prix award among many other awards. And notice in that, they really didn't talk about soap. There was no mention of soap. There was mention of Dove and what they stand for, but there was no mention of soap. The kinds of loyalty that came from this campaign was replicated and duplicated through tons of those ads at launch. There was maybe 5 or 6 videos, and that purpose bled into everything that they did, both online and offline. So how do we do that? How did they get there? We're gonna use Dove as the case study through our process, but what they did was they articulated their purpose loud and clear. They defined their position in the space against other competitors in the space and not in the space. And then they lived their values, really lived it. They took that purpose and they brought it out into the world. So they had tons of content to talk about on social media. Social media was a piece of cake for them because they had done the groundwork. So we're gonna share with you what we call the Wimzē method, which is a 3-phase approach. Phase 1 is the social media brand guide. This is the why and the how for your brand. Most of the work that you're gonna do is gonna happen here, or it's gonna be iterating this. So the why is, why do you exist at all? Why are you in the marketplace? And how do you exist? Social media strategy is the what are you saying? And where are you saying it? That specifically pertains to social media strategy. If it was another medium, it would be a different kind of strategy. And social media tactics and execution, which is just the logistics of getting the job done. So here we are. We're at phase 1, the social media brand guide. This is it. These are our trade secrets. This is what we do for all of our clients. We're gonna cover this list of items over here on the right. I'm gonna walk you through what this is. Take notes. It's gonna be a lot of information, I promise you that. Everyone told me to cut back my presentation, but I was like, no, let's give them as much information as we can. I've been on the other side of these presentations where it's just too surface, and I want you guys to be able to walk away with some really useful information, even if it's a little overwhelming right now. So focus, take notes where you can, and we'll also follow up with some emails or something where we can recap all of this. So brand purpose. I cannot emphasize this enough. Wimzē, our team took 3 months to establish our brand purpose. It's really hard figuring out what you stand for as a human being and as a brand. And it's gonna take time, and you're gonna have to iterate it a lot. You're gonna have to come back, and you're gonna have to have some debates with your business partner, but you're gonna get to the root of it, and it's gonna be great. So why are you here? Why enter the marketplace at all? What challenges does your brand solve? And what would be different without you? Has anyone done any brand purpose work here? Awesome, couple people. Can you tell me would you mind sharing your brand purpose loosely?
Yeah, loosely. It's to help people explore their life experience,
Mm-hmm.
and it's by displaying people that have and what are the results of that. So
beautiful.
Yeah.
This kind of work will be integrated into the work that you do here. And then it's gonna be elaborated on. So that's the brand purpose. That's what you need to know. Spend time on this. Talking about expanding on that, prospects are drawn to the idea that their spending can do more than just help them acquire goods and services. It can help them feel like they are part of a bigger effort, a movement to make a difference. They're not interested in what you're doing for your company. They're interested in what you're doing for their life. So really take that in and think about what that means for you. So here we are back at Dove. Here's their brand purpose. Dove believes that beauty is not one-dimensional. It is not defined by your age, the shape or size of your body, the color of your skin or your hair. It's feeling like the best version of yourself, authentic, unique, real. We invite all women to realize their personal potential for beauty by engaging them with products that deliver superior care. It's not to say that they ignored their product. It's there, but that's not why they built their product. And everything that they do from this point forward, this is the North Star. Any action that they take both online and offline will have relevance back to this purpose. Use this as your North Star. Every decision you make, if it's not leading back to your brand purpose, it's inauthentic, and people can feel that. Situation analysis. This quote is from a book that I've been reading. It's called Design Your Life. Does anyone know Design Your Life? Amazing book, highly recommend. It ties in really nicely with this kind of work. You can't know where you're going unless you know where you are. So this is just it's just kind of like your self, it's a gauge. It's like a self-audit of where you stand with your brand. Some things that we're going to talk about are a SWOT analysis. Is anyone familiar with a SWOT analysis? Yeah, great. So yeah, this is just orienting yourself. Where currently do you stand? What are your strengths as a brand? What are your weaknesses? What are some opportunities and what are some threats? Opportunity stands out for me. That's what's tying back, in my opinion, to your purpose. What are the opportunities in the world for me to exist? So yeah, this is one I just made up for Dove to run through it. They use real people. That's clearly a strength. A weakness is their price point. In their particular space, they're actually on the higher end for pricing. They haven't jumped, or they're just starting now to jump in a men's market. They've got some cool things going on, but that is an opportunity for them to expand. And some threats are that they're most definitely copied frequently. Since the launch of this campaign, so many people have come out with similar messaging, and that will be a threat to them. They're always going to have to be aware that they've got to one-up everyone else. So yeah, this is all about taking your purpose and contextualizing it into marketing opportunities. Purpose, marketing opportunities. Audience personas, I'm sure you guys have heard of this before. What I'd say here is get really specific. Come up with 3 to 5 to 6 audience personas, and don't just identify their age and where they live. Figure out what their aspirations are. What are they struggling with emotionally, mentally, physically? What are their motivators in life? What quotes would they come up with? Like, what would they be saying? And what's their lifestyle? What coffee shops do they hang out at? What do they do? How do they spend their time? So the last piece is a competitor analysis. I'm sure you guys are all very familiar with this. Choose a couple direct competitors. Choose some competitors that aren't even in your space, just aspirational brands that inspire you for one reason or another. And give your competitors the same amount of attention that you give your own brand. Go through a SWOT analysis for them, analyze their platforms, break down their content. What are they posting about? What are some strengths as a brand, and what are some of their weaknesses? There's a lot on the internet. You can really get as much information on them as you want. Brand positioning. Strategy starts at the end. I have that capitalized. We have to start thinking at the end result of what we want to accomplish. It's not, when you want to figure out, you have to get in the head of the consumer. So the emotional and functional outcomes is identifying what we want them to feel when they walk away from your brand. What is the takeaway? What are they feeling and what are they experiencing in using your product? Some ones that we made up for Dove: sentimental, empowered, accepted, community-oriented. That's some of the messaging. That's what they want to feel when they walk away from seeing something Dove put together. And functional outcomes. They moisturized and cleaner. They're big things. That's moisturize, clean, moisturize. Everything is that. Great. Messaging strategy. How's everyone doing? Good? Yeah? Great. I know this is a lot. Prioritizing your messaging. So this is where things get fun, but it's also where people seem to get flustered or don't feel empowered to speak on behalf of their brand. If you have that brand purpose identified and set up, this will be easier. But you should map it out. So what are the conversations that Dove is holding? We call these conversation pillars. Childhood development, women portrayed in the media, self-care in the modern age, the female collective, self-esteem, and self-worth. Those are the pillars of conversations that they're going to be bringing into the space, whether it's online or offline. Again, social media is just a reaction to all of this. Once you've identified your big pillars of conversation, write out your stance on them. It's not enough just to talk about it. People want to know how you feel about it. And then when your team grows and you have a big social media team, they know what your stance is and they can speak on behalf of your brand also. So that's actually just future thinking for growing your organization. Oh no, I lost part of my arrow. That was an arrow. Work down this way. Start with the purpose, body inclusion. We're just mapping out what we just talked about. Body inclusion is their purpose, or body empowerment. Persona, maybe one is a mother with a couple daughters. Maybe that's one of the personas. Okay, fine. What do they want them to feel? Sentimental. Awesome. What is the message they want to focus on? Self-esteem and self-worth. This is a map. This is you creating your narrative for social media. But it has to start here. You can't work the other way. Oh, there's my arrow. Visual identity and personality. Yeah, this might be the place where you bring in a graphic designer or someone who specializes in design. If that's not your forte, that's fine. But the things that you're going to be looking for is how do you bring this to life visually? This is a little bit more abstract, and it's up for negotiation. Usually it's a conversation. But color story, tone and voice, how do they speak? Who do they speak to? What are they saying? Asset style, especially for social media, photography, illustration, graphic design, those are going to have a different impact on your audience in the way that they feel. So you might want to discuss what kinds of assets are appropriate for your brand. Video, of course. Mood board and inspiration mapping. So put together a big collage. You can do it on paper. You can do it online if you're comfortable with that. Just get a general sense of what that looks like. Even, your branding, like the product itself, like your packaging. What are the words associated with that packaging? In your copy guide, how do you speak? What is the copy on the website? What is the tone of your voice on social? All of that's really important. So to quickly look at Doves, how this all came to life. Moisturizing, soft product shapes. They use real women, no supermodels. They're challenging stereotypes. Radiant women, comfortable with their self, optimistic and confident, happy. This is a little mood board for Dove. So it's all coming to life. Last but not least, for this section, we have building brand equity. We like to think of this as just daydreaming. If you could bring your brand anywhere in the world, what would it look like in real life? Would you have a summit? Would you throw a conference? Would you have a Facebook group? What parts of your organization would grow out of this? It could be anything, and it'll just help sort of bring it to life, contextualize it, and get a sense for what it's going to feel like. So yeah, and this is really about building trust and loyalty. So this whole thing is about consistency. If you're throwing multiple messages out in market about what you care about, that's where you lose people. You don't have that sense of loyalty because you don't know what they stand for. You're exhausted. It's like message exhaustion. So the more consistent you are and the more clear you are on your messaging, the better chance you have at retaining them after that maybe they even made a purchase. That loyalty lives on. It's a loop, especially with social media, because that's so not about the product at all. So yeah, possibilities for how this brand exists in the world. How do they live their values? How do they build trust? And how do they interact with their community? If you do any reading on this stuff, interacting with your immediate community is a huge pillar for success with building loyalty. Okay, so just to pull it all together, this was the Dove Self-Esteem Project. This is kind of how they built their brand equity. It's been hugely successful and also hugely effective. They came up with this real beauty pledge. We always feature real women, never models. We portray women as they are in real life, and we help girls build confidence and self-esteem. Again, everything they do is back to their purpose. Any piece of content that they create is back to their purpose. So this was the Girl Collective. This was a summit that they threw where they talked about women's empowerment, self-esteem building skills for younger generations. It was beautiful. They actually had a phone booth where you'd pick up the phone and you'd get some form of confidence building and praise, and you'd kind of go back and forth between the young women and someone on the other line. It was like this really fun, interactive part of the summit. They have a Facebook group. It's great. Facebook groups are popping off right now. Highly recommend. Girl Collective is a self-esteem sisterhood that builds confidence and challenges beauty stereotypes. We're all here to discuss issues we face every day and work together to create new solutions and empower each other. So this is how this brand has brought their purpose to life. It can live both online and offline. It's just reactive. Everything is just a reaction to what you've established is important to your brand. Okay, great. Made it through the first part. That was I think the kind of headiest part. So we're gonna do a little exercise. It's called Finding Your Why. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Again, this should take like 2 months. So use this as just an exercise of trying this out and seeing how it feels for your brand. What we're gonna do is we're gonna pretend that we're on the cover of any magazine we want. This should be a real magazine that exists. I want you to come up with what the magazine is, the title of the article that you're being featured for. You're on the cover. What are the big headlines? So what are the subheadlines for your article? Some sidebars, some supporting quotes by you, the brand, or maybe someone talking about your brand, and what images would appear. So just give it some thought, get creative. It's just an exercise in creativity and thinking about if you could be known for one thing, what would it be? And this is gonna help you start understanding your purpose more. And you can work in groups if you want and share, but I kind of feel like it's a personal thing, so I would just write and go. We have about 10, 15 minutes for this. How was that for everybody? Any interesting insights come out, or was it at least engaging? Yeah? Cool. Great. Thank you. Cool. So we're through the more difficult concepting stuff. We're going to get a little bit more tactical now. So what does this actually look like for social media? I just really want to drill home that point because you can't see success on social if you don't have this work established. And a lot of clients come to us at the tactics phase with, how do I get more followers? How do I get more engagement? And it's just such a bigger conversation. And we often find that even the people who have done the brand work haven't really dug in fully and mapped out those conversations. So phase 2, social media strategy. This piece and the next are going to move a little bit quicker, and we're going to do one more workshop exercise to expand on what we created with our cover stories. So items for the social media strategy. Social media objectives and KPIs we'll cover quickly. Audience behavior analysis, content series, and the community management guide. Maybe. Okay. Consumer decision journey. They start with some awareness of your brand. They consider it against other brands. They evaluate it for whatever they're looking for. They buy. And then whether or not they identify with your purpose, they stay loyal. And the social media KPIs that correspond with these different places: impressions, reach, follower growth, likes, comments, and shares, leads, and eventually conversions and referrals. Here's what we have to say about this. Don't rush it. Take it slow. We all know this story. Get to know him. Meet his family. don't rush this piece. You can't make someone convert and buy your product before they've gotten to know you. And that's what we see the most is people are running these Amazon, giveaway gift cards and they're just trying to push a sell, and it'll work, but it's not sustainable. It'll work for 3 weeks and that's about it. It'll work until you stop spending money. So, 5 rules, not 7. 5 rules. Locate yourself in the marketing funnel. If you are in the awareness phase of a new message, every time you introduce a new message, you're back at the top. So just because you've been around doesn't mean you can just shove a new product in someone's face. You've got to start over. Locate yourself in the marketing funnel and find the KPIs that correspond with that placement. Don't label certain KPIs as bad, and consider qualitative metrics. So how people are engaging with your brand is just as valuable as how many people signed up. Analyze them over a prolonged period of time. Map out how long. You can't make snap judgments. You have to A/B test tactics to understand. Does anyone know what A/B testing is? Great. Yeah, we have to A/B test before we make snap judgments and shift and course correct. So benchmark your KPIs and strategically adjust. So analyze, take the time to sit with your KPIs, see how certain things performed, and put some thought and annotate how performance is going. Audience behavior analysis. So we've already at this point mapped out our audience personas in some of our branding work. So we just have to dig deeper. Now we're talking about social. You don't need me standing on a stage telling you who's on what platform. You can look that up online. What's important is that you've mapped out your audience. And now just find out where they are. What conversations are they part of on social media? What Facebook groups are they in? What events are they going to? Who are they? And what feature touch points? So on social, are they hanging out on stories? Are they hanging out in Discover? Are they hanging out in the hashtag feeds? Just get to understand where they are and map that out for each audience persona. So who's familiar with Away? Who owns an Away bag? Yeah, they're great. Here is Away's brand purpose. We live in an age of access. Anyone can go everywhere. The world is a shared place, and every trip is part of the exchange, no matter the destination. We believe in making connections on the road, online, and in person. We value access over aspiration and exploration over escape. For us, all time away is time well spent. You get the picture. I just wanted to put that here so you understand why they made some decisions on strategy that they did. It came from this brand purpose. So content series. Again, this is where our brands start to feel less empowered to make decisions. I don't know what to post. I don't know if what I'm saying is valuable or relevant. I feel a little overwhelmed. It's just about categorizing your messaging. So come up with a concept, and I'll show you this. Mood board that concept, and these are all going to be based on your conversation pillars. How long is this series going to run? What platforms will it live on? Who are the key players we need? Are we talking user-generated content? Are we talking production? Are we talking influencers? What are the needs to get this content series up and running? And how are we measuring success, KPIs? So for Away, I know this is a little abstract. I just want to give you some visuals. Their content series live in different places on social media. It lives in their stories. It lives in their highlights. It lives on the feed. It lives on their Twitter feed. It lives on Pinterest. And all of those different platforms have different types of content series. So once you identify the platforms you want to be on, you'll then create content series that are relevant to that platform. Some of the ones they have is Our Team up in their highlights. That's behind the scenes. That's just who Away is. This Week You is great. It's user-generated content, meaning it's submitted by their audience base and then posted on their page. It's just things that they did with their Away bag that week. Quick 101s for how to use the product best. There's some really cool features with Away luggage. Travel hacks, super important. they're not a luggage brand, they're a travel brand, and that's how they market themselves. So they're much more concerned about making traveling more enjoyable than they are about the luggage experience. The Weekender is another one. Extravagant travel, you'll see that all throughout their feed, these beautiful, beautiful destinations. That is a lifestyle play that has nothing to do with a luggage. This was the This Week You feature, so these are some stories that you saw just to get a sense of it. So people, audience members submitted these to Away and Away reposted. This is their feed on the left, their Instagram feed. You can see some of the luxury travel with the Away bag strategically placed, and sometimes not. Dogs, always. Everyone should have a dog somewhere on their feed. And yeah, this was their Twitter feed. So a little bit of a different play. It's a little more coy, short, but effective. This was another Twitter series they ran. This guy was running on the treadmill with his Away bag. They posted a little video. It's really cute. It was great. And that's it. So just, start thinking about what are the different ways this can manifest on social media. It's gonna make it so when you're posting, it's just reactive. Like, you're already gonna know what you're talking about, and you're already gonna have it segmented and categorized. So at that point, it's just a matter of scheduling it out and getting the production needs for those series. And the community management guide, mapping follower and customer interactions, hugely important. As your team expands, you're gonna have to have someone talking on behalf of your brand, and it's really tough. So there are different features you can check out. There's quick replies, so if there's recurring questions coming up, you can quick reply them on Instagram, so it will save you a lot of time. Influencers, mapping out who are the influencers that you want to be working with, getting their follower count, and then also making the introduction and mapping out that relationship management. FAQs, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of those. Map the most relevant ones out so you have a response ready to send. We have a sample community management guide. I think it'll be best to just send this to you after. It's a spreadsheet, and it's labeled into your FAQs, the influencer bucket, quick replies, and you can just use it, duplicate it, and have that on hand. It's time consuming, but it's ultimately it will save you more time in the end. Great. So we're gonna jump into another workshop. And I suspect this one will be a little bit more difficult because for many who haven't done and established their brand's purpose, it'll be harder to do content series. But use the brand's purpose that you've identified in your cover story and just get comfortable with the idea of brainstorming different content series that could exist that are relevant to your brand. If anyone has questions, let me know, and let's run this for 10 minutes. The last piece of this is great. I hope that this has been useful for you in connecting your purpose to your strategy. I want to make sure that for anyone who came for the hacks and tactics who are like, I've already done my purpose, I'm there, I want to make sure I give that to you as well. It's going to be a lot, and I'm going to run through it quickly, but we will recap this in an email, especially this part, so you'll have it mapped out for you. So phase 3, social media tactics and execution. A couple things I'm going to cover among 20 that I cut out. Aesthetic, hashtags, Instagram stories, video engagement, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Aesthetic hacks. Consistent and clear in look and feel. Absolutely complete your bio and info sections on all of your platforms. Again, this is the new homepage, so you have to expect that people are coming to your Instagram page as a first touch point. So make sure that all the information is there. Things that are so underrated that make a huge difference are identifying your color scheme, your lighting, and your spacing especially. You can pick a filter that you like, pick 3, and stay within those 3 filters, and you'll get that comfortable setup. This is one of our brands, Indie Beauty Expo, just highlighting the pink, blue, and purple schemes that very clearly come out on their feed. They don't use a lot of negative space, interestingly. They're going for a little bit more DIY creative vibe, and they use the soft whimsical lighting. So you will see a lot who actually prefer more space, and that gives that cleaner, crisper, more modern look. Hashtag hacks. Avoid spam hashtags. Just don't do it. It's contributing nothing to the social media space, making all our lives more difficult. Stay below 1 million mark in hashtags if you're trying to pick out which hashtags are the best. The reason for that is it'll disappear pretty quickly in the feed. There's just too many tags associated, and so very quickly you'll disappear. 500K would be the sweet spot for that. For each post, you have 30 tags available to use. Use all 30, but just be clear. Use quality. Pick quality over quantity if you have to choose. And absolutely assign a community manager, or if you're a one-person show, engage in the hashtag communities. So go in to type in the hashtag and see what people are talking about, and insert yourself as another consumer in that space, not just a brand pushing products in their face. Instagram stories hacks, tag locations and hashtags. You can actually tag a location, and then you'll have the opportunity to show up on that location discovery feed. So if you're at the Empire State Building, tag the Empire State Building, or tag the surrounding area. Check out how many tags there are. That's like just a great hack that people should be using more frequently. Tag influencers and brands if you're using them in the post. Don't tag them if they're not in the post. That's annoying for everybody. Instagram stories you should be posting every day. It's a more casual platform. They've introduced these polls and questions and community opportunities. That's a great place for you to collect information on your audience. So ask the questions and make sure they're thoughtful. They shouldn't be these big sweeping statements like, what are you doing today? No one's going to answer that. They don't feel empowered. It's not specific to them. So think about questions that are really thought-provoking and specific to the person who's consuming it. Highlights are pulled from your stories. It's the little bubbles that appear at the top of your Instagram feed. We've seen a couple brands do this, and I think it's great. This is just real estate. It's a real estate game. There's not a whole lot of places on your Instagram page to just talk about what your brand is. So use one highlight reel to tell your brand's story. It can be super cute. It could be higher production quality. It could be a video series, and have 10 videos within that series that tell your story. Other things you can consider here are behind the scenes, product features, tips and tricks, user-generated content, takeovers. All of that stuff is great. It's that more general, casual feel. And just make sure that whatever content series you're coming up with is very, very relevant to your brand and your purpose. And you want it to be consistent is the key. Video hacks. The higher quality, more polished videos should live on your feed. And the more reactive and less polished, easy to manage videos should live on your stories or IGTV. Product tutorials are great. Announcements, documenting experience. So if one of your founders is going around doing speaking engagements like this, you should be documenting that to put a little bit of personality behind your brand. Engagement hacks. Engagement has grown. It's not just likes, comments, and shares anymore. It's swipe ups, it's clicks, it's saves. Think about all of the experiences that one could engage with your brand, and then create opportunities for all of those touch points. And use as many features as possible. These platforms are always going to favor the newer features that they're coming out with. So the shoppable is great. IGTV is great. They're going to always favor those newer for exposure and visibility. So if you're working on growing a specific platform, utilize newer features within it. Vary your mediums just to add a little bit more personality. Always be in a business profile. If you haven't done that, do it. And consider community features. So again, those questions and polls. Influencer hacks. Don't go too big. Trying to find someone with 300,000 followers is going to be a lot more difficult. Utilize the more like nano and micro influencers that are operating between 5K followers and 15K. That's kind of a sweet spot. You can get a lot of free stuff there. You don't always have to pay influencers. A lot of them are just looking for great brands and great content. So those are opportunities to partner. And don't look at it as a transaction. It won't really help your brand if you just say, hey, can you post about my brand? Come up with a storyline. Come up with an experience that someone can see. And people are creatures of habit. Come up with something that they can expect to see with this influencer month over month or week over week. And incorporate influencers into your content series. That shouldn't be a separate effort. Those are 2 in 1. And just some general 2020 tips and trends and thoughts. There's a lot of talk around Instagram removing likes altogether. So be aware of that. It doesn't mean you can't work with influencers, but it might be a little bit more tricky to work with influencers. Shoppable posts, long-form video. Facebook groups are huge right now. Twitter for advertising, affordability is great. Pinterest is an easy win, especially for anything that has a visual component. Be aware of emerging video platforms like TikTok, and everyone has a podcast, so just roll that one out. I mean, you can try it, but you're competing in a very competitive space. So, yeah, and not to say that you should be running to new platforms. I would say establish yourself very comfortably on 1 or 2 before you're even, it would be a lot worse to be present on 6 different platforms but have mediocre presence and just general discomfort than just nailing 1 or 2. Those are stats you can take to investors or partners and say, hey, we're crushing it on this platform and we have so many followers. It's so much more effective than saying, we're on all these platforms, but we only have 2K followers and engagement is low. So just focus. Here are some key takeaways. Spend some time finding your why and your how. Become a brand of deep integrity. Ponder the user intent of social media. Consider your placement in the funnel. Take the time to map out your story ahead of time. And don't get too married to tactics. So with that, we're Wimzē. We're a social media agency. I told Taylor I wouldn't do a huge Grammys speech, but I do want to take a minute to thank Taylor, my co-founder and co-queen, for helping me put this together. None of this content could exist without her, so let's give it up for Taylor as well.
Hi, I have a question about influencers. Is there a place to go to find them all in one place?
When we look for influencers, we just go to Google and there's already huge curated lists online. So you can grab like 100 per industry and research each of them. Okay. So if you type in fitness influencers on Instagram, there's already tons of curated lists. Another place we've found lists were Facebook groups. If you join any social media focused Facebook groups, people give their lists in there as well.
What tips do you have for a team that maybe is less than 5 people and they're all working like part-time?
Your life is going to be really hard right now. That's like, honestly, you're in the hardest place. Like this is, as far as social media goes, it's very difficult to figure out how to stay on top of this stuff while also running a business. And I can say that from personal experience, just running my own agency and trying to work on my own presence. What we have found is effective is if you can just promise yourself to understand the framework like we talked about, then you can hire a community manager or some interns or some entry-level positions to manage, but at least you'll know how to track success. You don't have to do it yourself. But if you know what you're looking for and you come up with your own brand purpose and your own funnel and strategy for meeting that, it's going to be a lot easier on you to manage the efforts. So I'd say spend about 2 months really dedicating yourself to understanding like the art, and then you can bring people in to execute without, having to hire a full-blown agency.
Which are the best social media blogs that keep up with current changes in the platforms?
We love Later. Later is awesome. Yeah, we read it like every day. Social Media Examiner is another one. Hootsuite is another great resource. Any others that you love?
I was going to say Later also.
Awesome. Yeah, Later has been our go-to. And don't discount industry-specific publications as well. For us, we're in wellness and we do a lot of beauty. So we read Beauty Independent every day. That's an online publication for beauty, but there's tons on social media there, and it's very specific and catered to your industry.
What would you recommend for?
Where are you? Oh,
Here.
there you are.
What would you recommend, like with social media, the difference between building a company from the start with social media versus kind of an event? So like instead of like all of this brand work for your company, kind of styling an event for like bringing it up to that point of when the event happens and all of that.
So is it one event that's going to happen one time?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can make, if it's just one event and it's not going to be a repeated event, you can just build an event page on Facebook from your personal page. And you can reach out, you'll have to reach out to maybe brands and influencers to help promote that event as well. So you don't have to do as much work on the branding side. If it's an event that's going to turn into something that's repetitive, some sort of like annual summit, then you definitely, Indie Beauty Expo is the perfect example of that. They are just independent beauty brands around the world. They do expos in different cities, and they give as much information on independent beauty as they can. And that's a strategic branding play. They build up this audience. They give them valuable content in between summits. And then when the summit comes, they already have the audience. In fact, it's easier. Like, your job is easier because you're not directly promoting a product.
So this might be a little bit specific, but if you're building a marketplace where your personas are very different from one another, is it more impactful to have, say, multiple social media entities, say, a buy side Instagram and a sell side Instagram, so they feel more authentic to that particular persona than to try to mix them together?
Yeah, totally. Hierarchy is really important for your personas. It is great if you're expanding into new markets, but you want to tackle one at a time. So you don't want to go in and have 5 different audience personas and it would be very confusing for someone to come to your feed and see such a mix between the audience personas that they don't know if it's for them. Sure. So typically what a brand would do is they pick one and really work it and get that whole crowd there before they expand into, say, a men's market. So for Dove, that's a perfect example. They really started with the women's market and very specific personas there. And they added them strategically. And then they have a hierarchy, so they will give more attention to their core audience.
I don't know if this is still the case, but a few years ago, if you were starting an Instagram feed from scratch, you'd go out and follow loads of people, like them, comment on them to build up your at least audience, so they could then see all of these different things that you're going to be posting. Is that still the case today?
Yeah, absolutely. Community management, that guide will be super helpful for you, but you should absolutely be engaging on, say, competitors or people in the space on their feeds and finding their audience. So our wonderful community managers who are here, Courtney and Claire, do that every single day. They send DMs and they're very real. There's no like sales pitch. They just say, hey, we've got this community. This is what we're about. You seem like you're someone who might be interested in this, and we'd love to talk and get to know each other. And
so it's a mixture of comments, DMs, likes, follows.
Skip the follows.
Skip
keep
the
your
follows.
ratios.
Really? Yeah. Okay.
If they ask for a follow, do it, but it wouldn't be in your best interest. I would say just start the communication with them and speak one-on-one with them. There's no reason for the follow. Like lots of stuff, go in and advocate on behalf of your brand, but there's no reason to follow unless it's crucial for your brand to actually follow them.
And is this someone devoted to this pretty much 8 hours a day, 5 days a week?
Yes.
Okay. With a lunch break?
Lunch they can take. Lunch is important. Okay. 9 to 5.
All right. Thank you.
Because you can't shut off. Like, that will always keep rolling. So you've got to end the day at 5 for them.
No, I know.
But it expands. Like, a lot of those conversations end up turning into beautiful partnerships. So I actually really recommend those one-on-one conversations. It's very like social media friendly.
My business, I wouldn't say there is an e-commerce component to it, but because it's in food, CPG, the actual conversion rate for online sales are extremely low. So I view social media, correct me if I'm wrong, for a retail primary brand as more awareness, I guess.
Absolutely.
And you can look at some of the other brands like Siggy's. They don't even have e-commerce, I don't think. They just have their online presence to, I guess, talk about the brand story. That's the case for a lot of food brands. They don't sell online. They just talk about it online.
Yep.
So in that case, in working both on investing the time as well as energy into my brand social media, as well as the influencer partnerships. Like, can you just talk about some of the metrics for measuring how successful those campaigns
Totally.
actually are?
Awareness is really where you're going to spend most of your time on social because it's not really built for conversion. You can get conversions out of social and you can build up that loyal audience base. They might not navigate to your website from social, but they'll hear of your brand on social. And then once they identify, they'll probably, it's also harder to track those conversions because they may check out your Instagram page and then at a later time purchase separately. So more often than not, we're focusing on that in awareness and engagement. So things you would want to be focusing on are likes, comments, shares, of course, impressions, and reach is the area that you'd want to be focusing on. And you'd want to look at that engagement rate is huge. That's everything. So if you're working with an influencer, you want to understand their engagement rate. Having 50,000 followers with really low engagement is not really useful for you. It's not reaching anybody. It's just a number and it's probably bots.
Sorry, just a quick follow-up. So then how do you actually value the engagement, I guess, for your brand?
How do you value? You have to set your metrics ahead of time in your strategy planning KPI. So you'd have to you have to do some benchmarking. So there's a lot of research on each platform's, each industry specific benchmark. So what is the standard engagement rate for food and beverage, and market against that, and then find brands that are within your target, if that answers your question.
I don't have like a company. I'm like my own personal brand. I'm a model and actor. What kind of challenges would I be solving and how would I appeal to an audience if I'm not like serving a purpose?
You should read the Design Your Life book because that's really about personal value. You can still offer a ton of value to someone and have your morals and your values mapped out for someone and engage in that way and it's all about just being intentional. Again, if you have too many messages out, people don't know what you stand for. I want to go to an influencer's page and say, cool, they stand for all organic, vegan, food. And I just want to know that that's who they are. Those pillars of conversation still exist on a personal brand.
Okay.
But you have to then define for yourself. That's a little bit.
What do I want to represent?
Yeah, like
right?
what do you want to represent? What do you want to contribute to the world?
Gotcha. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
I just want to know because we didn't really speak about how much paid ads you use within social media itself.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's one question. How do you guys strategize based in that area?
Sure.
And then the second question I want to ask is, if let's say we are a company with like a full-on paid ad department and we have like PR and all that stuff, how much percentage of resources should we allocate to social? Or would you allocate
For
to
social advertising?
Yeah, for you, what would you recommend to your clients?
So yes, we didn't talk about advertising tonight just because it's such a huge beast in and of itself. We primarily use advertising to amplify messaging. So again, we're crafting really intentional stories that we're putting out into market. When you're a new brand, if you say you have the budget for advertising, great, you need to reach more people, that's the goal. But you want to know what message that you're sharing. So you can hire, if you wanted to, like agencies are great at crafting individual stories. Say you're launching a new product or something specific is happening within your organization. Typically we limit that. There's like a start and end date to that. But then we also are running evergreen just awareness where we're tackling, we do a lot of focus on lookalike audiences and retargeting of website traffic. How much you should allocate is a tougher question. It would take more analysis of like how your marketing budget is split up right now and how many teams you're utilizing and also who's in-house. I mean, the best answer is use as much resource as you can in-house before hiring out. You would definitely, if you were running ads, you would absolutely want a strategist. You would want some sort of art director or creative director. You would want to at least have access to a photo or video production team. And you'd want someone who's specifically a media buyer to run those ads and measure success.
Give her a round of applause for Sydney. This was awesome.